All right, so now let's quickly take a look at what is called the pivot tables in Microsoft Excel. It must have sound strange to you. It's a new term or new keyword to you. So it's a powerful summarization tool. I've personally used the pivot table actually to summarize, data in Microsoft Excel. So the tool, what it does is that it allows you to analyze and manipulate large data set. Please take note of this key important point. Right, is a powerful data summarization tool. Please take note. Number one is a summarization tool which allows you to analyze and manipulate large data sets, all right, easily. So it enables you to extract significant information from your data by number one summarizing. So please take note, it is a summarizing tool, right? In case you are asked in an interview or you come across a quiz online asking you, maybe there are options like objective questions and you are asked to give an answer. So number one should be is a summarizing what? Is a summarizing tool. Okay, and it's used to manipulate large data sets. So from your data by number one summarizing, organizing and presenting it in a more digestible format. Right, because most of the data you are going to be working with in companies are large data sets, exported from maybe transaction on e-commerce platforms, affiliate platforms in large volumes. Sometimes it can contain about 14,000 records or even more than that, 20,000, 50,000 records. And most times you may not really be able to get certain results, right, using these large data sets, except you have to summarize them in a more digestible format so that you can just easily click and filter and view certain aggregate results in all right in using this pivot table. Okay, so let's quickly check something. All right, so here are some of the basic overview of how a typical pivot table works. Number one, it has what is called a data source. So this starts with a data set in Excel containing rows of data. So each row typically represents an individual record. Please take note, each of the rows represents an individual record and each column represents a different attribute or variable. Please take note. Right, so each of the column represents different variable, all right, and each row represents an individual record. Now this may sound you know kind of technical, you may not really get to see, but once we start working with our data you understand what we have been saying. So creating a pivot table, right, to create a pivot table we have to select the range of data. Please take note, the range of data we want to work with, we have to select it, and then we go to insert tab. All right, so in Excel go to insert tab, and in the Excel ribbon, all right, from there you click on pivot table. So you choose where you want the pivot table to be located, either a new worksheet or an existing one. Now we also have what is called a field list. So once you've inserted a pivot table, Excel will display what is called a field list. We are quickly going to see that now. So this list contains all the column headers from your original dataset. Please take note, the field list contains all your column headers. Your column headers is the first row. So if you've not given, whenever you're working with pivot table, please take note, you have to give your data set a column header. So column header could be maybe name, department, age, maybe region, amount. I don't know if you understand. So, and this is going to serve as variables, right? So this list contains all the column headers from original data set. You can drag this field into different areas of a pivot table, right? So in a pivot table layout, you typically have about 4 areas. Please take note, you have about 4 areas: the rows, the column, the values, and filter. So these are the 4 areas. So for rows, you can drag fields. Please note, you can drag fields into row areas to group your data along the rows. So we also have the columns, which can drag fields into the columns area to group your data along the column. Okay, then we also have the values. The values in the values fields in the values are areas that can perform some kinds of aggregate functions like aggregation, such as maybe summing, getting the count values and using average functions right, for the data within each of these groups that you've created. And you also have the filter. This one allows you to filter areas, all right, data displayed in the pivot table based on some of the specific criteria you have. Now, I think I'll be stopping here. And also, I want to add that you can as well as customize your Excel. It has customization options, including maybe changing your summary functions, applying some sorting and filtering the data, adding something like the subtotals, adding grand totals, and formatting also the appearance of your data set. Now we have other ones, but for now let's just stop here and let's get to Microsoft Excel to start seeing how to use the pivot table. All right, so this is a typical data set that we are going to be working with. All right, this is a data set that we're working with. Let me quickly zoom this in. All right, let me quickly zoom this in so we can have a look of this data containing name, department, region, branch, hire date, and cell. So this is our column header. Please take note, this is our column header, right? So for you to create pivot table, it says you should go to insert, right? Once we go to insert, there is on this ribbon here, this is the insert ribbon, we have what's called the pivot tables. All right, so let's just click on pivot table. So we are going to select it from our table here. Okay, now this is a pivot table dialog box. So it says what's the range we want to select. So automatically it has captured the range of our table here, and then it's asking us choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Now sometimes you may have come across people working with pivot tables and they choose to use new worksheet. When I mean worksheet is by, all right, Excel will automatically create a new sheet at the bottom here. Remember we saw how to create new sheets by going to the bottom and adding here. So Excel will automatically do that. But in our case, we want to be working with this existing sheet by creating our pivot table at just the right side of our data, or these are table, right? So click on existing sheet. Now it says select the location. Now click on this arrow and then we select the location you want to place your pivot table. Let's just click here, then let's click enter. All right, and that's just it. So click OK. So once you've clicked OK, we can see this table created for us here, just this small table. And then by the right hand side we have the pivot table fields. Remember we said that the field list is created, and this field list which is created contains all our column headers. And you can see right here that we have a column headers, name, department, region, branch, hire date, and cells. And we can see the fields all displayed here, having the name with the column headers. Please take note of this key information. All right, field lists are created from our column headers of this our original data set. All right, so we are totally creating something we call the pivot table, which is going to summarize the whole data that we have in this our table. We are quickly going to see that. Now we also have, as we said, we have the row label, we have the values, we have the column, and we have the filter. Right, so let's quickly do some stuff, because when we're talking about rows, we said that we can drag fields. You can drag each of these fields to any of these columns, values, and this. All right, so first and foremost, let's drag let's say branch. Let's drag the branch to row here. So you can see it quickly summarizes. Remember that we have different branches: Kano, Imo, River, Lagos, Kano. So there are repeated Kanos here, there are repeated Lagos here. So it quickly summarizes all the regions straight to single value. So now after we've done that, we also have what is called the region. So you can drag the region here. Let's say we drag the region still here, or you can drag it to a column here. All right, can drag it here. So how many regions do we have here? Or you can even drag the regions to rows here, then drag these ones to columns. Okay, now we have the east, north, south, and the west. And then we have the Imo, Kano, Lagos, Rivers. Okay, now we can drag the cells to our values. Drag the cells to our values. Please take note. So what we said before is that the values, this field, what it does is that it performs some kind of aggregation, such as maybe summing, such as counting, and some at averaging, right? Or averaging it. And we also have what is called a grand total. Now, if you want to sum everything here from the IMO, if we begin to sum all the cells here, remember immediately we dragged here, we got the sum of the cells. So you can just be playing around with this. You can be playing around with stuff like this. All right, you can play around with stuff this way. You can put things this way. Right, we also have the names and we also have the departments. So you can drag the names here. All right, you can drag the departments here. All right, you can put the department here for each of the departments. So in the east, we have law and then we have sales. In the north, we have finance, we have marketing. In the south, we have finance, we have marketing. In the west, we have the law and the different departments of these persons. And then we can also filter it by, in fact, you can even take the department to filter. All right, so these are all the departments. Now you can choose to select for only law and click OK, and then we have the result here. That means we have only east and the west. There is no south and there is no north for the department of law. All right, for department of law. So let's just select all for now and click OK. So I think what is left for us are the different names of these persons here. Most times you may not necessarily need to input all the fields in all these areas here. Okay. Right now we also have the higher dates here. So the different dates that each of these students got hired. And for the name, you can choose the name to be, let's say, in the rows here. You can pick the names to be in these rows. And then we have the different information of each of these. So in the east, we could see Israel, Joshua, Joy, Michael, Miracle. And then these are the different cells they made. The total sum, actually, because these are the sum of the cells. Because the cells field was placed in the value area here. And remember, these are all for the department. Now, if you happen to select law, so it filters the students only in the law and then with their total sum here, and we can see the grand total as well. Right now, what Excel does, or the pivot table does, is that it also creates what is called the subtotals as well for each of the regions. For example, in the west here, we have the subtotal here, 5,000. I mean, that is 50,000. Then we also have for subtotals here, I mean, we also have what is called the grand total. Okay. Now, let's go back to selecting all. Click OK. All right. Now, I think there are other customization options actually. All right. Now, if you go to the top bar here, once we create a pivot table, two different tabs are created. One is the pivot table analyze, then the second is the design. Now, you can actually work on the design of your pivot table. But one is that you can choose not to show the subtotals. Okay, you can choose not to show the subtotals, or you can as well as show all subtotals at the bottom of group. That is the default we had. Then as well as you can show the top totals at the top of the group. But most of the times you may likely have to show the subtotals here. So for the east total here, that's the subtotal, we have 45,500, and then we have a 25,500 here. Right, for the Kanu, and then we have the the grand total here. So you can just click on do not show for now. Then we also have for grand totals, so off for rows and column, on for rows and column. And I think in our next subsequent classes we would actually analyze all these things. Right, we also have to show show in compact format, and then we also have to show in outline format. All right, is the outline format where we have the regions, we have the different names, we have the different branches here. which is Imo, Kano, this. Right, so it's in a more, these are the different report layout if you want to print out your data set. Please take note. So what this thing does is that it summarizes everything we have here. Now we can see we are working with the sum of the cells. Actually, you can change this from sum of the cells to maybe the count. Right, by default we have sum, we have count. Let's say we want to get the average. Right, let's say we want to get the maximum values for each of them, or let's say we want to find the minimum value. All right, so these are the different aggregates um summarization. So let's take for example the count value here, so we can see each of them 1 1 1 1. So let's quickly go here. You can see the average. So it gets to you the average of the cells for each of the regions here, each of the branches with their names. All right, and then the different states. So let's return back to default here, which is the sum. And let's say we are asked to get the sum. So these are the sum, and then these are the grand total. Now if you get here and then you begin to add all these values, add this yourself, add all these things yourself, you actually get all these results. All right, so I think I'll be stopping here. There are more to pivot tables, and we are basically going to look at that. So this is just part one, and we've taken a lot of time to build, to handle this lesson. All right, so thank you so much, and I'm expecting to see you in the next lecture.